There are two types of isometrics. There's yielding isometrics where you're just holding a position for a certain amount of time, basically trying to fight against gravity. So you can take pause push-ups. You're pausing at the bottom of a push-up for a certain amount of time, or pausing at the bottom of a squat. That's a yielding isometric. Overcoming isometrics is when you're pushing against an immovable object. So your body technically isn't moving, but you're exerting as much maximal effort force against that immovable object as you can. This is an advanced strength method. It's really good for helping you overcome those sticking points in certain lifts. So if you've done, we'll take a bench press for example. You've done a barbell bench press. Normally what you'll find is that once you get the bar off your chest, you're reaching about halfway to that lockout position. It feels like the bar's moving a little bit slower, and you might be struggling maybe halfway up through that press, right? So we can train an overcoming isometric by basically setting up spotter arms on the power rack and pressing up against the bottom of those spotter arms as hard as we can to train our brain to be more efficient, to exert maximal force in that range, in that joint position. So when we go back to regular bench pressing, once we reach that sticking point that usually tends to feel the hardest or the weakest for us, our brain is used to recruiting a maximum amount of motor units and muscle fibers to really plow through that sticking point. That's just one example. We could also use overcoming isometrics for the lower body as well. Like we might set up the spotter arms a little bit higher on the power rack and use it for a squat, where we have the barbell either front or back loaded, where the bar is underneath the spotter arms and we're driving up into the bottom of those spotter arms as hard as we can. I've also had my clients do it for the trap bar deadlift. So I might set up the spotter arms a little bit lower, trap bars underneath the arms, and they're trying to push the floor down as hard as they can and drive the barbell, or the trap bar rather, into the bottom of those spotter arms as hard as they can. I might also, if I'm using this in a program, I'll usually probably use it for about 3 weeks at a time. And each week I will change the angle or the height of the spotter arms. So I'm helping myself or my clients, depending on who's doing it, get stronger at multiple angles and position within a movement. So we'll use the barbell bench press for an example here. So what I like to do is if I've got the spotter arm, you'll see the barbell is underneath the spotter arms. That's because I'll be pressing it underneath the bottom of them as hard as I can. So I'm here, I unrack it. Now I don't start off at 100% intensity, meaning I'm not gonna just go 0 to 100 as fast as possible. I'm gonna get my position, glue the barbell underneath the bottom of the spotter arms. I'm going to take a big angle really tight. I'm going to start at about 70% and ramp up to 100% anywhere over a 2 to 3 second period. Once I'm at 100% effort, I'm going to hold that 100% effort for about a 3 to 5 second rep. So I'm here, 70%, I'm ramping up and 100% driving as hard as I can, trying to move that barbell, and then I'm going down, relaxing for about 5 seconds. Again, barbell back in position. Starting at about 70%, ramping up to 100, as hard as I can, driving, and relax. Anywhere between, I would say for myself or my clients, I'll usually use 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 5 reps total. And for the each rep is going to be about a 3 to 5 second maximal effort repetition. Again, I'll probably use it for about 3 weeks at a time if I'm doing it in the program. Anything beyond that, you'll usually get some diminishing returns just because it is such an intense method. And since this is such an intense method and it's more of like an advanced strength training method, I probably encourage you to exhaust the more classical, traditional rep ranges and strength methods in your program before you add something like this too prematurely. Reason being is because you want to try to milk those classic rep ranges as much as possible before you add in something a little bit too advanced, right? So ideally you want to be probably lifting for at least a few years and get those reps under your belt before you add something like this into your program. And again, like I said, it's great because it's malleable, it's flexible when it comes to overcoming isometrics, right? You can be creative with it too. The rules aren't kind of like set in stone when it comes to this. So for example, I'll use an overcoming isometric pull-off press as like a great core exercise for the obliques for some of my clients. So I might get like my client to press a medicine ball or an RX pad into the wall as hard as they can for about 10 seconds per side, just to really fire up the obliques and get things going in the core, right? For some of my boxers and my athletes, I might get them to do an overcoming isometric on the landmine press. So I'll get them to get into that lockout position on the landmine press. I am on the other side of the barbell pushing down against it as hard as I can for about a 3 to 5 second count. And then they'll do 3 explosive repetitions as fast as they can, taking advantage of that post-activation potentiation that they got from that previous overcoming isometric, right? So, and that's on another note too, you could, if you want to do it, it's great alone as it is doing an overcoming isometric, but you can make it a little bit more athletic and take it up a notch by doing a contrast method where you're pairing it with an explosive exercise of a similar moving pattern. So if you wanted to do that for the upper body and you're using the bench press, you might do an overcoming isometric bench press for a couple of reps, follow that with a medicine ball chest pass or a medicine ball throw for distance, and like taking advantage of that post-activation potentiation and then expressing that force as hard as you can in that falling power or ballistic movement, right? Tons of different variety. You can do it for the lower body too. If you're doing it for the lower body, you might do like a trap bar deadlift, overcoming isometric on the bottom of the pins, right? And then doing it as hard as you can and following that with a vertical jump or a squat jump or some jumping variation basically to use it more as like a contrast method, right? Tons of variety, tons of flexibility and like autonomy that you have when it comes to overcoming isometrics. But really the key kind of kicker is that it's an advanced strength training method. So if you are more beginner or novice, I'd probably wait a while before you added this into your routine. Hope this helped. If you have any comments, just let me know in the, have any questions, just let me know in the comments. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.